Ray here. Ray is a very good friend of mine, actually my husband, with childhood friend. I have a lot of respect for Ray. He's one of these people that are completely self-made, and one of these people that I was referring to in our last lecture, a serial entrepreneur. So he started as an Australian boxing champion at the age of something like 60. Yeah. And then moved into establishing his own business, had a gym in Northbridge for many years. He moved into pursuing his dream of becoming an actor and writing a screen and filming his movie Two Fists One Heart, in which he also acted in. And in the last few years, he started this new company and he created this amazing product, which he's also going to speak about this today, the Boxmaster or Fight Master. And now he's, yet again, from last year that he addressed the class, he was telling me today how he's moved to this other new idea of combining boxing with spinning, and there's going to be another big era of product serving in the market. So I will pass on the microphone to Ray. We'll let him go through his story and finish, and then you guys can ask him questions.
Can you hear me? Firstly, guys, I'm not made, I'm just trying. I've been trying my whole life, I'm still trying, so I don't classify myself as made, but thank you for the comment. How I got here, I'll just briefly tell you, I don't know what I'm doing here to be honest, because about a year and a half ago I'm in Northbridge, and there's this gentleman that works for the tax department, and he's sort of, according to all, he's quite high up there, he's a boisterous little guy, and he holds a very similar lecture at Joondalup campus, ECU. And he came up to me and he said, "Oh mate, I want to have a talk to you, I want you to come and do a talk about," and I thought he was sort of having a joke with me, mate, so I went, "I need a favour." And every time I saw him in Northbridge on the way to the gym, he'd come up and have a go at me about coming to this campus. And one day I realised he was serious, you know, and I thought, well, he's very high up in the tax department, you don't want to say no to this guy, right? And then I just sort of said to him, I sat down, I said, "Look mate," I said, "no disrespect, but," I said, "mate, I don't know if you're going to be mixed up with something, I don't go to school. What do I want to talk to uni students about?" And he said, "Well, that's exactly why I want you to come." I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because I want you to come and tell your story about how you got to where you are with very limited education and so forth." So, understood. So I went off there, and about a week later, he told me there was 6 people, there was about this many people there, so I got ambushed. So anyway, fast forward from that, Eleanor approached me and I came down last year, and here I am again. So I'll stop talking now and get on with the story. So basically, I was born here in Western Australia to migrant parents. Mum was from Naples in Italy and Dad came from Sicily. My memories of a child, I remember growing up in a poor suburb. We lived in Melbourne for the first 18 years. And my youngest memories were there was a boxing ring in the backyard. And there was an old industrial barn light shining on a ring. And every day, you know, my dad didn't only move to a tough suburb, he decided to open the Belga Boxing Club in the backyard. So it was doubly as hard. So we had every colour, creed, everyone was around the house. And it, you know, I would get home from school at 3:30, and what did we do? You know, get a bowl of cereal, go out and try and kick the ball, and my dad would get me like 5 o'clock. He'd go, "Come on, get ready." So basically, as long as I boxed, I didn't really have to study because my dad had his own sort of path mapped out for me in his own mind. So basically, you know, at 5 o'clock, Belga Boxing Club began, and our backyard became TV ringside, and it was on. So I went through my whole life, you know, I boxed from the age of 4. Back then in the day, you could fight kids at a very young age. In 1979, the laws changed, and then you had to be 10 years old and so forth. So head guard, there was no head guards, none of that stuff, so that's why I sort of came in with things. So anyway, on we went. By the time I got to 16, I was an Australian champion. I used to fight men because I had that much experience. And you know, and at 15 I fought the state senior champion, who was 25, and I beat him, right? I won an Australian title, but boxing wasn't what I wanted to do. I was terrified of my dad, and that's what he wanted me to do. So, you know, you don't argue with your own, well, you don't argue with my dad, right? So anyway, that's all I ever did. And I got out of boxing. At 16, I sort of had the balls to stand up to my dad a bit. And I just said to him after the Australian title, I said, you know, I don't want to do this anymore. So the next 10 years of my life was horrible. Because my best mate, I sort of got out with him. It was horrible. So it was very, very tough on me and my father. But then I also went through a stage where I was really angry because I thought, well, not that I'd do anything to get out of study, but at 25 I realised, well, I don't, at 18 I started working on the doors in nightclubs. And that's a really good career. And and then by the time I was 23, I'm only 5'10", guys want to test you, they come off second best, I ended up in court. I beat every charge because I didn't start it, but you know what I mean, I was going down that path where I knew it was all going to end. It wasn't going to end nice. So at 25, I sort of looked at myself and I went, what am I going to do? I don't have a trade, I didn't study. And then I sort of thought about it and I thought, well, boxing's my trade, it's what my family do, this is what we're about. So fortunately for me, in the 90s, sort of mid-90s, personal training became a bit of a thing. People, and I thought, and my dad's been out at the Balga Boxing Club, the recreation centre, for 44 years. He's dedicated his whole life to helping kids. Every race, every colour, my dad loves them all, and he gets them off the streets, and that's what he does. So that's all we've ever really done. So, but up there, put your 20 cents in the jar, and he thought it was a big thing. Well, personal training, all of a sudden, people are paying sort of, back then in the 90s, $40 an hour. People were scratching their head going, do they pay this? So I thought I will use what I know, and that's how it started. At 26, I started personal training, and I remembered holding focus mitts. So when you hold focus mitts, you're basically a mobile punch bag. You're a personal trainer, mate. You're a mobile punch bag. That's what you are. And all the injuries, all these different guys coming in and bang, bang, bang. So after about 2 years of doing that, I thought, this has got knobs on it, right? I'm going to go to America. I had this idea for a boxing machine. So I thought, I'm going to go to America. I'm going to go to all the big gyms, because that's where boxing's at. And I'm going to just have a look around, see what's out there. Then I'm going to go to Italy, meet my family, come back to Perth, possibly open a gym and try and get this product to market. So what happens is I go to America, and sure enough, like we're all tourists, right? I go to America and I'm staying at a place, I'm in New York, and I go to a coffee shop called Bubby's in Tribeca. And no, I go to a coffee shop that Robert De Niro owned. The name escapes me now. I went there, and there was a lady walking a dog. We're 29 years old. We're going, and so I asked this lady. I said to her, does Robert De Niro own this? And she said, yeah, but love, they all hang around that cafe. So me and my best mate up the cafe, we go, and we all watch all those movies and that. And everyone loves him. So I go there. Long story short, I've got my training bags. We're going to Gleason's Gym, which is a very famous gym in New York. I go there. Long story short, Harvey Keitel sits down next to me. We start talking. He said, where are you from? Blah, blah, blah. I said, because I wasn't from the life, I wasn't an actor, I wasn't a writer, I never read a film script, I didn't, because where I grew up, that's the movies. It's like on another planet, and I didn't even know how you would even begin. But I got talking to Harvey, and long story short, he says to me, in a year's time, I'll be in Sydney doing a film with Kate Winslet called Holy Smoke. He says, look me up, because we become sort of mates, because I was talking boxing to him. I wasn't talking about film and trying to become an actor like everyone else does. So anyway, we leave New York. I go have a look around, go to the gym, can't see anything like this boxing product that I've got in mind. I go to Italy, meet my family, come back to Perth. Scratching my head, and I'm thinking, there was an actor that I was supposed to meet in Los Angeles. I don't know if you guys know Costas Mandylor. He's the guy that did Saw, and he did Mobster and the Christian. So anyway, he was a mate of mine. No, he wasn't a mate of mine. He was a guy I was supposed to try and meet through a friend. I never had his number. He never had my number. I left Harvey. I flew to Los Angeles, and this is how this film thing evolved. I didn't know a person in Los Angeles. I tried to track this guy down through a friend. Plane touched down in Los Angeles. I got a cab to a hotel. I went, got the key, and I didn't know a soul. Walked over the elevator, pressed the button, he came and stood next to me. The only guy that I wanted to meet in LA, because he was on 60 Minutes punching a punch bag, and he was from Melbourne, knew a lot of guys I knew. So anyway, we got talking about film and stuff. A year later, Harvey Keitel's doing Holy Smoke. I put a call through, he answers my call, and I fly to the rap party. I'm having a chat to him, he talks about films, and he said, you know, Ray, everyone's got an idea for a film, but if you've ever got an idea, you should put it on paper, because once it's on paper, then you have something. And I'm sort of like looking at him, I go, what do you mean? And he starts talking, and I didn't say anything at the time, but when I was a little kid, when I was boxing, when I was 10, I read a book on Sylvester Stallone. He was my hero as a kid. And I thought, and honestly, I never told anyone, but in my heart, I always said, I want to make a movie one day. And I just thought it was like that one moment in my life where I thought, the gate's open, you better have a crack at this because you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. And I remember as a kid, you know, going to Queen Street in the city, which I'm going to do a big circle and come back to Queen Street. So I remember going to Queen Street in the city with my dad and watching these guys fight in this old warehouse in Queen Street, Spa and all that. And I remember as a kid saying, I'd love to have an old warehouse like this when I get older. And I was like 7 years old, right? So anyway, on we go. I thanked Harvey for his time. I got back to Perth, and in the year that I was back, I went and got a private tutor to start doing some private acting classes. Because I'd always, you know, I never sort of I didn't know anyone, half my mates laughed at me, I thought I didn't care, I was just going to have a crack at it. And I felt like really sort of vulnerable and exposed when I went there, but it was good. Every time I left there, I felt a bit better, you know. So what happened was, I got back, I rang my drama teacher, I said, mate, I've got to have a talk to you. I said, who's the best scriptwriter in Perth? And he said, why? I said, I had this talk to Harvey Keitel. He said that if you believe in something, you know, if you want to write a script, and he goes, Ray, he goes, a script's direction and dialogue. I said, what do you mean? He goes, direction. He goes, you know, direction, wide shot, old house, two guys sitting. And I said, okay. And he said, I've got to write it. So next thing I sit down and I write a 20-page story. I think I've written, I don't know what I've written, I've written something, right? I did the most embarrassing thing I've ever done in my life, but I knew I was going to do it, and that's why I did it. I picked up the phone, I said, Harvey, it's Ray. And he said, I said, remember that time we spoke about that, because he was still in Sydney, spoke about that film thing? I said, look, I've got this idea, and he goes, well, he must have thought, oh, God, this kid's stalker, right? And he said, yeah, and I said, mate, I just want to, he goes, do you want to send it? And I said, no, if you've got 3 minutes, I'll just show it to you. He goes, you want to come back over? Come back over. I had a 20-page story. I put it under my arm. I flew all the way back to Sydney. And he looked at me and he comes out and he's getting a massage. He comes out with a towel around him, right? He looks at me and he goes, what's that? And I go, that's it. I said, that's the idea. And he goes, right. He goes, that's called a film treatment. He goes, I stopped reading them 20 years ago. He goes, if you're passionate about it, you believe in it, you write it, and I promise you my door's open, I'll read it. And I looked at him and I said, Harvey, you don't know me. If I say I'm going to do something, I'll do it. I said, mate, thank you for your time. I give him a hug, and I left. I got back to Perth. I locked myself in an apartment. I got the teacher around. I said, mate, how do you do this? And he goes, direction, dialogue. I locked the apartment. I got up every morning at 5 a.m., went for a run, and 3 months later, I had a beard and I had a film script. I was a writer there for a while, right? So I had this script, but I never even read a script, so I didn't know that a script had to come in at 170 pages, or, you know, it's supposed to come in at about 170, you trim it back to about 110 pages, being 1 minute of screen time every page. Well, I had a 365-page draft, you know, I didn't know, right? Anyway, I had this thing, and I thought, right, and there was a story in there, believe it or not. There's about 10 stories in there, but there was a script. So a friend of mine, Ristos, remember the surprise chef? Remember him? Yeah, no. Right. He's a funny guy, right? So Ristos was mates with John Cornell. And John Cornell, I don't know if you guys know, there used to be a film called Paul Hogan Show. And John Cornell and Paul Hogan wrote Crocodile Dundee. I met John Cornell through Ristos. I got hold of John Cornell. He came and met me at Coco's for lunch. Gave him the script. I said, mate, I don't know. There's no good me showing the mechanic up the road. What do you reckon, John? And John, you know, he's a real deal. And he said to me, he put it down and he goes, and after I met him a couple of days later, and he said to me, first of all, he goes, thank God, he goes, it's good. Because I would have hated to tell you, So, John Cornell and a guy by the name of Brian Shields, who wrote the Paul Hogan Show, helped me over a 8-week period, and I got a second draft. I got this thing to a second draft, and it just went on and on and on. The years rolled on. And the worst thing is, for someone like me, when you open your mouth and say, I'm going to write a film script, 90% of people sort of put their hand over their mouth and go, this guy's an imposter. He's going to write a film script. So, I'd already put my hand up and said I was going to do it, so now I had to do it, right? So, what I did was, I gave the script to a friend of mine, Dennis McInerney, who I met through this girl, the Torrey's Butchers. Gave it to her, she gave it to Dennis McInerney. He gave it to a guy who was the dean of the Black Swan Theatre named Duncan Ord at the time. And then one thing led to another, and Crawford Productions, who do predominantly television, they picked the film up. And I was sort of like gobsmacked, and now I'm in Sydney working with the, what was it, Melbourne. I was in Melbourne working with these guys from Crawford Productions on this film. It was surreal. Anyway, that went for a while. It dragged on a bit, and then because of, I think it was funding, and it was so long ago, all these different reasons, I was sort of like, we sort of hit a bit of a, no, I'll tell you what happened. They said to me, I met them, I went there for 3 days, and they asked me question after question after question. They said, now this is what you call a hurdle. They sent me back a script. They said, hi Ray, it was great spending time with you the other day. Here's what we believe is the new script. There is 130 scenes, 118 of them are new scenes. No, 118 of them are scenes that all need rewriting. There's a massive heap of new scenes and all this stuff. Like, they gave me so much work, and I just thought, how am I going to do this? You know what I mean? This is ridiculous. And they go, good luck. And these guys never thought they'd hear from me again, right? So anyway, grew a beard again, went down to the Dome Cafe and sat there, and I worked and worked and worked. And a month later, I had a draft, and I rung these guys and goes, it's done. He goes, mate, it can't be done. He said, I said, it's done. No. I sent him back the script. They were doing a film called Saddle Club at the time. Yeah, and they said, oh, we've got to do Saddle Club. We never thought we'd hear from you again, at least for 8 months. So anyway, I got the script. So while this was all going on, I talk about biting off more than I could chew. I finished the script, but I wasn't up, and I had to sort of make money, so I go and open this bloody gym in Northbridge. Worst thing I did, right? So now I've got pressure. I rented a building, I opened this big gym in Northbridge, and now I've got staff, and I've got this, and and actually the gym was going all right. It was flying. Until I had to punch up with the bikies in Subiaco, and that firebombed it, and it didn't go that well after that, but that's another story. Right? But anyway, forget about that. But I had this gym, and I had these boxing classes going, and they loved it. I had 30 punch bags in there, and it was flying along. Anyway, so I had this script that I was trying to get up. I was flying away to, I'd finished with Crawford's, trying to get things up, and then I got a phone call from a guy named Jeremy Cumston. Jeremy Cumston was an actor in All Saints. He was one of the nurses. He's a doctor in Sydney. Great guy. Rang me and said, mate, I got this script through Duncan Ord. I really need to come and see it. Comes and sees me. He goes, mate, I'm best mates with the guy who's read it, who made Rabbit Proof Fence. His name's David Elphick. He's a Sydney film producer. Mate, can I come and see it? Comes and sees me. They take an option over the script, so here we go again. Rewrite after rewrite after rewrite. So meanwhile, back at the ranch, I'm running my gym. I have the problem. The joint gets firebombed. Now I've sort of got like, oh, this is great. And I'm trying to keep this gym afloat. I'm trying to write a film script. So the boxing idea, I go, mate, the boxing idea is just way too hard at the moment. So I put that away. So anyway, I'm going on and on. After about 7.5 years of struggling, I get the film just about up, like it's there. We're going to have an opening night, cocktail party, we're going to launch the film, we're going to launch the fundraising for the film. The West Australian government put in X amount of dollars. Talk about the 11th hour. I've I've got the film producer in the car. It was a comedy. Right now I can laugh, right? Where we've got the cocktail party, everything's organised for tomorrow night. We get a phone call. Someone says, mate, you better go and get the paper. The minister's pulled the pin. The whole thing's fallen over. So now I've gone, because I was involved in a fracas, and I put the colourful character and all that stuff. So anyway, there it goes. The whole thing, everything I've been doing fell in the dirty big hole, right? And I go, this is great, right? So I've just spent 7.5 years. My gym was really struggling. I was doing, and I always did personal training, so that's what sort of kept me afloat. Like there was so much going on, and you either fall over and die, or you just keep fighting. You know what I mean? And you only sort of like, it's only over when you say it's over. So what happened was, maybe the publicity sort of helped us in a way, but the federal government looked at it and they went, big deal. You know what I mean? Like they looked at it, they go, the guy's got a criminal record. Okay, like they looked at the people behind the project, they looked at everything and they went, we're still with the project, so God bless them, they stayed with it. After about 2 years after that, we rebuilt the House of Cards and we got the film made. Now, when I originally wrote the film, my opinion, it had balls and it was gritty and it was really, really, when you make a film and you're the money, you're the new guy, you've got producers that want to, it's like getting your mum's Italian spaghetti sauce and then the film producer from Sydney gets a bucket of salt water from Bondi and pours it in the sauce and they get, just watered down. Some people, the critics liked it, Margaret Pomeranz gave it 4 stars. It wasn't what I originally wrote, but I got my film made. And when you're trying to, if anyone's interested in film, but you have to sort of like, they call it killing your babies and getting rid of scenes and stuff. But long story short, that took, and I was sitting in the cinema. Now that film, I wrote it for my father. I didn't write it to make money. I didn't write it for any other reason. I wanted to do a bit of acting, and I wrote it because I'd watched my father dedicate his whole life to the kids, and I just wanted to give him back something for all the years that he'd given to us. Along the way, just before I got there, I eventually sold the gym, and I'd done a short film. I'm just giving you a bit of background of how things can lead on. This guy got me to a short film, Jeremy Cumpson, and I went to Sydney to visit a friend, and she worked for a casting agent, and the boss walked in, she goes, is he an actor? And she says, well, yeah, I've seen him do a couple of short. Next minute, I got an audition for an American film called The Condemned. I'd never even been for a real audition, right? So I walked in front of WWF guys, and this was before Toothfist. And the next minute, I'm auditioning in front of all these guys. There's all these big gorillas in there, and I'm like the smallest guy there. And they said, so I did my lines, I put on a French accent, Italian accent, all this. And the guy goes, righto, mate. There's about five of these guys in the room, and they said, this guy behind the camera goes, hey mate, he goes, everyone's a fighter, so can you give us 30 seconds of your best in front of the camera? So this is like, so you've got to give 30 seconds of your best, without falling over. So anyway, I do my best, and the guy behind the camera goes, hey mate, can you give us any, and he starts flicking his leg, he goes, can you give us any kicks or something? And I'm a boxer, I don't kick. So I look up, and I'm not even thinking, and I go, mate, I said, I normally knock him straight out, I've never kicked a bloke in my life. Everyone starts laughing, falls over, the director runs up, gives me a high five, goes, mate, you got the part. So there you go, talk about honesty, right? So anyway, I suppose what I'm saying is, from me meeting that guy in New York, and trying, and never giving up, I finally got my film made. I don't classify, and I think because of that, I've done a little bit of Underbelly, and I've done bits and pieces. I'm not an actor. I'm not here saying I'm an actor. I've done short films, done a little bit of TV, I've done one American production. I've written and acted in my own film. I don't classify myself as an actor. I don't classify myself as a writer. When I've written 5 films, I call myself a writer. If I've acted in 10 real films, I'll call myself an actor. Right? So I'm not here. But all I'm saying is that I don't have an education. I never read a film before I wrote one. I didn't do acting classes. Well, I did the basic stuff. But, so that's what happened. So then after 10.5 years, 1 in 11 Aussie films made money. So I didn't plan on retiring on Toothfist, but paid off the mortgage, but I didn't make any real money. So I thought, oh, this is great. And with films, this is what happens. get people coming up to me every couple of weeks, and it's happened for the last 5 years. They go, oh mate, you that guy in the film? Oh, congratulations, I really enjoyed it because I just saw it last week. Now, if that guy and all the other people, and I'm not knocking anyone, but if they all went in that 3-week period when you get your film made, that's when you have a success at the box office. So critically, you can have a successful film, but unless you get bums on seats and everyone goes to the box office within that 2 or 3 week period, your film doesn't succeed at the box office. So that's how films work. So 10 and a half years later, I leave there and I go, right, this is fantastic. I've just wasted 10 years of my life. What do I do now? And I thought, well, I better start training people again. So I've sold the gym. That's a godsend. So I start training people at home. And after about 2 weeks, I go, this is really hard on the shoulders and stuff. So I'm sitting at home and I've still got this idea. So I start to draw it. I get these 20-cent pieces and I draw this idea. And I draw how it looks. And when you hold, if I was to be any of your trainer and I teach you how to fight, when you learn how to fight, when you learn to throw punches, everything is within the rectangle from our hips up. When a man fights, he'll do this or he'll duck. So all the punches and so forth. So when you are a trainer, everything you create is within that space. So the rest of the world has evolved. Boxing hasn't evolved, probably because none of them can remember anything, but there's a punch bag. And since the early 19-whatever, all there ever has been is a punch bag. You know, there's been wall-mounted foam pads, the typical boxing bits and pieces. But, you know, so what happened was I had this idea. I've got a mate of mine, he's a sheet metal worker, who's really, really good at it. I went and saw him with this idea, and I made this product originally it was called Fight Master, right? Box Master, Fight Master. So so what I did was, whilst I was building it, I looked at it, and to be honest with you, I was building it for me and my dad, not for anything else, you know? And then all of a sudden, as it's evolving, I'm looking at it and I'm going, because, you know, I'm a personal trainer, you train one person an hour, maybe two, you know, but you're very, very limited to how much work you can do. You're not like a traditional AIF trainer who says, pick that up, push that, jump rope. When you're a boxing trainer, like I said, you're a mobile punch bag. So you're limited to how much money you can make and you have a shelf life because of all the injuries associated. So I built this product and I'm looking at it and I thought, if I had 4 of these, I could train 4 people in an hour because it's recreating what I do. So I thought, and I'm looking at my garage at home and there's like a games room in the way and I'm going, if I knock that wall out, I could put 12 of these things in. So the next minute I get the builders in, we get this big, you said the big steel bit, and we gut the bottom of my house because there's no way I'm opening another gym. I've been through that. Plus it's 5-1 proof, right? So the next minute we gut this place and I build these boxing machines, right? And everyone thinks I'm mad, so I've got these, so I press the button, I build 12 of these boxing machines and I put them back to back. So it's like this thing standing there and one there and one there. So because the outer area of that, 4 people can get on, the outer area of that is like when you move around when you're in the boxing ring, throw punches, you can all change stations. So I go 4, 8, 12. So I get the builders in, we gut my house, put these big beams in and I set it up. So I start bringing all my clients and getting my clients back in. And all of a sudden, I'm making like $600 an hour training people. And I'm going, I'm onto something here. And they're like blown away by this. So they go, what is this thing, you know? So what happens is, I think to myself, well, I'll either end up doing a deal with a multinational, or I'll end up with I'll either do a deal with a multinational and I'll have a 6-car garage in Northbridge because I'll get rid of these things, or I'll just have these things to train people on forevermore. So I've got this product and I think, right, what do I do from here? Now, when you tell someone about an idea like that, they go, like you guys probably can't get your minds around, what's he talking about, right? You'll have to Google it later. So what I do is I get a film crew in, I script it, and I do a presentation, and I basically say, hi, my name's Ray Fazio, and I talk about the boxing. I talk about the boxing product, and I talk about how you can, how boxing equipment hasn't evolved, and how you can make X amount of money in an hour with this product. We film it, we get it really well cut, and now what do? So here's this idea I've got. I built it in Northbridge, but what do I do with it? Now, it's like if you come up with an idea for a phone, you need to get 9 Nokia, Samsung, one of the big multinationals on board. So what I do is, I'm walking up the street in Melbourne, and I walk past Virgin Active. You know, Richard Branson's got those beautiful gyms, Virgin Active. I walk in, looking around the gym, and I walk in the corner and there's 4 big red punch bags. There's this great equipment, it's everywhere, and there's 4 punch bags. So I get this weird plan that if I could get to Richard Branson and convince him that he needs these for his gym, he could then take me to these manufacturers. This is a crazy plan I had. And then we could probably get the product made. Because people like us, you try and get something made from one of those big multinationals, they just sort of hang up the phone on you. So what I did was I had a friend that used to work for Branson in London. I put a call through, and they give me the number to a guy named Andy Birch. And Andy Birch is responsible for all the buying at Virgin Gyms. So I make a call and I say, it's not on yet, is it? Okay.
Huh?
You're not going to press it yet, are you?
No,
No,
I'm
okay.
just gonna have it on so people.
Yeah. So what happens is this guy, Andy Birch, says to me, like, who are you? And I said to him, tell me about the product. And he says to me, mate, can you just send us the DVD? And I went, no, I'm not sending anything, I swear. I said, look, mate, you don't know me from Barso. I said, I want 4 minutes of your time. If you don't like what I've got to show you, I'll shake your hand, I'll walk out of your office. He said, well, can you come Thursday? I said, see you later. Put the phone down, I jump on a plane, I fly to London, I get on a train, I can't even catch trains here, I'm useless. I go to a place called Milton Keynes, and I end up in the offices of Branson's buying crew. He looks at the idea, he falls in love with it, he introduces me to one of the big multinationals called Matrix. So in the gym world, there's Technogym, the Italians, they're the number one. And then there's Life Fitness, Matrix, and Star Trek. They're like the 4 big multinationals that manufacture gym equipment. So what happened was, I get with this company, he looks at it and he goes, he was blown away. Can you come back Friday? I go back Friday. I have a meeting with Matrix. Matrix look at it and they said, what do you want? And I go, well, what do you want? And they go, we want that DVD. And I said, well, and I had a mate of mine with me who's like legal savvy. We've got a non-disclosure agreement signed, and they said, give us 90 days. I'll just stop the clock for a minute. But what I did do properly from day one was I patented everything. Like I got the patent attorney around and I said, mate, patent this thing as if it was your own. I said, oh, I don't, this is not my forte. Just do it, patent it upside down, inside out. So anyway, I get the patent process going. It's a long process. So this guy says, give us 90 days. So I think all my birthdays have come once. I'm so happy. The idea I had of sort of getting to a gym owner who can take me to that next level, and it looks like I've done it. I wait 90 days, and these guys go, give us another 90 days. And I'm going, oh, this is weird, right? 90 days. I wait another 90 days, and they go, we're not quite ready yet to take it to them. Give us another 90 days. And I smelt it, and I went, and what happens is with these big multinationals is they know that you're just a guy from Perth who's not a multi-millionaire, and they understand the patent process. And the patent process is you've got 12 months once you lodge a patent, and in 12 months you get a letter, and they go, you ready? You go, what do you mean you're ready? And they go, well, if you're not ready to apply for patents everywhere, you have to give us another 20 grand. It's called a PCT. So these guys understand the process, and they're just waiting for you to run out of money. So anyway, after that second lot of 90 days, I smelled a rat. I went, you know what? I said, I'll wait another couple of weeks. I knew this was going to go sour with these guys. I knew that they were sort of... So what I did was, I rang a mate of mine, Costas Mandeville, the actor. And I said to him, mate, you reckon we could get to Sugar Ray Leonard? Now, do you guys know who Sugar Ray Leonard is? Yeah, okay. Sugar Ray Leonard, apart from Muhammad Ali, he was my hero. He was probably one of the best boxers that ever lived. He's a legend in boxing circles, right? And this was a long shot, right? And I just thought if we got someone like Sugar Ray Leonard on board, it might help the product. And talk about, when you come up with an idea and you believe something can possibly happen. So I said, you reckon we get Sugar Ray Leonard? And he said, well, we could try. But now I've got my gym. I've got my gym on the DVD, right? So I've got something to sell that's going to take with me. I jump on a plane, I fly to Los Angeles, my buddy's waiting for me. Now, we've known each other now, me and Costas, for 12 years, since we met. We go to a gym. Now, I lost contact with Harvey Keitel at about the 6-year mark. Now, this is 12 years since I've met him, but 6 years ago I lost contact with him. And I said to my best friend, I said, one day I'm going to run into this guy, and I don't want to be the guy who never made the film. You know, I don't want to be a ball breaker. Oh, mate, tell us about the film. Oh, yeah, show me how to do it. And then, you know, there's a million tossers out there that say they're going to do this and they don't follow through. And I don't want to be that guy. And I said to my best mate, I said, I'm going to run into him one day. Anyway, he goes, yeah. Alan knows him, right? So what happens is I fly to, and now I've got one reason I'm going to Los Angeles. I'm going to Los Angeles to try and get Sugar Ray Leonard. I don't know how I'm going to do it. So Costas picks me up. We can have a shower and we go to Venice Beach and we go to this incredible looking old school gym in Venice Beach. We train, we leave, we pull down a side street and he gets lost. And he goes, I'm lost. I said, well, you're from LA, mate. I'm from Perth. Don't ask me. Pulls over and he's looking at the road map and I look like that. And sitting right there in the car, I go like this, Harvey Keitel. And I go, oi! And he turns around and he hasn't seen me. He hasn't put eyes on me for nearly 13 years. He goes, Ray Fazio, pull over! And that was it. And so I gave him a hug and blah, blah, blah. But I'm just telling you how, don't ever think you're going to run into someone again. And don't ever, you know, and unless you're really sure you're going to do something, and you're really passionate and you're honest about it, don't break someone's balls because you will run into them again. And I felt so good because I did it. And he looked at me and goes, you did it, right? And he was doing Meet the Fockers too with De Niro. Anyway, so he had his little boy roaming with him. And so he goes, what are you doing here? I said, I'm here, got this boxing machine, blah, blah. See you later. We get back in the car. We get to the hotel. And you guys, I'm telling you, I don't sit here and lie, I don't tell lies. Get in the hotel, have a shower. Costas goes, I'll meet you at the bar. Costas has been an actor there for 20 years, so he knows everyone. Walk to the bar. He goes, hey, Ray, this is Billy Bob Thornton. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. G'day, Bill, how you going? He goes, Ray's an ex-boxer. He said, yeah. He goes, I used to box too, believe it or not. I said, oh, yeah. I go, yeah, my dad's an ex-boxer. He goes, my dad's an ex-boxer too. He goes, you like Sugar Ray Leonard? He's a really good mate of mine. On my mother's life, that's the truth. And I start laughing, right? And he looks at me like that, and Costas goes, oh no, like this, because he's mates with him, right? And he goes, what are you laughing at? And he goes, tell him, no, you tell him. And I go, tell him the story. I said, look, please don't think I'm weird. And I tell him, and he's looking at me, and he goes, anyway, he goes, well, on Tuesday, here's my number. He goes, on Tuesday, give me a call, and I'll come. I said, I've got this thing. I'll come see you on Tuesday. So we have a few drinks, and he starts going, oh yeah, you know, pretending that he goes, cracking guys jokes and all that. Anyway, we say our goodbyes. True to his word, man. Tuesday, I rung him up, and Billy Bob rolls up with his blonde lady, lovely lady, his assistant. They sit in my hotel room at the Sunset Marquee, and I put the DVD on. He looks at me, and he goes, first thing, he goes, that fight we said we're going to have, he goes, that's not going to happen. He goes, but that's a lot better than what you said, what you explained. I said, well, and he goes, and on my mother's life, 2 weeks later, I was in Sugar Ray Leonard's house. And it was the most amazing, for me, I mean, I know a lot of you girls might think, who's this guy, Sugar Ray Leonard, right? But he's, you know, he's awesome, and he's a great guy. And I walk up, and then I get this call, and this guy goes, get a car, go to 1550 Amalfi Drive, Pacific Palisades, ask for Garnetta at the gate. And I get there, and there's beware of dog, and I go, no, I'm not coming in, there's a dog there. Anyway, I walk in, they go, oh, Mr. Fazio, Ray's waiting for you upstairs. He's just finishing off training. So I walk up these old wooden stairs, these big old wooden doors, and there he is. He's got this big smile. And he goes, hey, Ray, how you doing? He goes, I've got 8 minutes to go, sit down. I go, come on, man. I break into training mode, right? I go, pick it up then, Ray, run home. We have this great bar. I walk in, he talks more than me. He spoke for an hour before I said anything. He starts talking, and it was awesome, awesome. He walked me around his house, showed me his 6 world title bouts. What a brilliant night. So anyway, long story short, with him, I put this DVD on. He's blown away. I don't, and that was in November. January the 11th, the following year, which was 2010, I delivered the boxing machine to Sugar Ray Leonard to his house, right? So I phoned this company up, Matrix, who are starting to play me. And anyway, I make a call, I can see something's going on, so I go, look, forget about it, you know. So Ray Leonard was great, you know, and I still stay in touch with him about the boxing machine, but I've got to now, you know, you can be all the Ray Leonard you want, but he's not a manufacturer, and he's not a distributor, and he's just a guy. So, you know, and he's got lawyers and that sort of protect him. So I then get a call from this guy, Jeremy Cumston, who's a mate of mine, this Dr. Cumston, right? The actor guy, and he said, Baz, he said, I know a guy who was the founder of Fitness First in Australia. So you got Richard Branson, Virgin Active, Fitness First, this guy named Tony. And he goes, mate, I told you about your machine. Come to Sydney to meet him. I go there, I put this thing on, and this guy looks at me. And then the next day, he's a big South African guy. So I go, hello, Ray. He says, how do you feel about having a financial partner? I want to buy 50% of your business. And I said to him, because look, I'm not that business savvy, but I had a few clues. And I said, look, I'm not being disrespectful, and I appreciate what you're saying. I said, but I don't want you to come in as my partner if you're going to put this great machine in your gym to make revenue for your own premises. And he says, no. I said, I need to get this to a multinational. And he goes, mate, I've been buying off Star Trek, which are the opposition to that other company that mucked me around. I've been buying off them and got relationships with their people for around 20 years. So the next minute, I got my accountant and my lawyer in. We wrote a 50-50 deal, and within 2 or 3 weeks, I was in China at a factory, at the Star Trek factory, 1 million square feet. I shipped the product there. They bolted it all in. All these engineers and so forth came in from China. All the big bosses, everyone stood around. I put on a demo, and mate, I got a round of applause, and they went, "That's awesome." So what I explained to them about the product was, you know, what attracted them was small group training is now the thing. It's the thing, you know. So people don't necessarily have, you know, $55 for half an hour, 80 to 100 for an hour, and they don't really want to go in a $5, $10 class with all the, you know. So small group training is sort of something. So when they saw this product, there's all these new small group training products on the market that, like, this thing's called TRX ropes that hang from roofs. There's all these bits and pieces, but you know, there's not that much fun going like that with a rope, or, you know, putting your feet in stirrups and shaking, especially when you're my age, right? Right? You know, like, a lot of them are very unfriendly, you know. So they get this boxing machine. It doesn't matter how fit, how unfit. You get in front of it. I'll show you in 2-3 minutes how to use it, and you can actually think of your boyfriend if he's done something wrong, or your worst enemy, or your, you know, whatever. And so the thing is, I can put you on a boxing bag, and like boxing bag, you know, I'll go, well, put the left there, put the right, and you go, yeah, and then I'll walk away and you're doing this, you know, because like this machine's got, you know, these numbers and it's all set up. So what happened was we get these guys on board. Star Trek ended up doing a deal with us, and they are now manufacturing and distributing the product around the world for us. So they're in about 70 different countries. I now travel to trade shows, so I'm the dude on the Boxmaster booth, and you know, he'll go, mate, Fitness First Dubai, they've got 50 gyms, get going. So I'll go on and go, hey boys, how you going? And bang, 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 bang. I answer all your questions. The girls love it, you know. It's funny at the trade shows, more girls get on it than guys, because the guys with big muscles don't really want to get on there because they've got to show what they're worth, you know. So that's what I do now. I travel and I do the trade shows with the product. And I'm just in the process of setting up Australian distribution. So that's a piece of the pie that we're keeping for ourselves, because it's not that hard to run, you know, distribution in Australia. Because, you know, so my partner, Star Trek, they basically distribute the product, manufacture and distribute all around the world. They pay us a royalty for every machine they sell, and my job is to travel probably 4 or 5 times a year and go to trade shows. So meanwhile, back at the ranch, right? So I go, okay, well that's done. We'll sort of, you know, well on its way. I thought, well, what am I going to do now? You know, we travel 4 times a year, and I set these gyms up for people now. You might buy 4 units per gym. So I wrote an online certification. So when you buy the product, your personal trainers that are, AIX trainers, they go online, they do it's about a 5 or 6 hour download, and you basically go through the whole thing. I teach you how to stand, how to throw a punch, how to each individual punch, how to administer those punches on the boxing machine, and then most importantly, I show you how to run a class with 8 people, 4 units, 4 on, 4 off. The 4 that are off will jog on the spot, the 4 that are on will punch. You charge these guys $20 each or whatever, and all of a sudden the revenue can really roll over, because instead of one trainer train one person, one trainer can train 8 people at a discounted price. So that's what I do. So I'm at the trade shows and I'm thinking, okay, I promised myself I'd never open a gym again, right? But I sort of looked at it and I went, I'd be crazy not to do, because when I was in Northbridge, I just sort of ran what really worked was the boxing. I opened a weights gym downstairs and people don't come to see me to do weights. So the minute you have weights, you've got to have memberships, and I should have just run a class, 5 classes a day, pay as you go, not the old credit card membership and all that sort of stuff. So what happened was I'm setting these gyms up around Australia and flying into the States and helping out. And the product's now gone to the UFC, it's gone to the universities in Hawaii, throughout America. We've got the US Navy looking at it, all sorts of people are on the product. We've shipped containers to Russia. So at the trade shows, I sort of thought, the #1 class in the world is spinning. I mean, I don't know how many of you girls do spinning. Does anyone do spinning? Do spinning? Spinning? Yeah? Good. All right. My girlfriend does spinning, right? And I said to her, geez, I come spinning with us. And I sit down on the bike and the ladies go, woo-hoo! And I was thinking, like a real goose, woo! So anyway, I went with it. I didn't like it. But, look, I get it, right? I totally get it. And it wasn't easy, right? So at the trade shows, like, there's all the different brands. But my partner, my big partner, Star Trek, not the guy in Sydney, he's the biggest manufacturer of spin bikes in the world. And a bit of spinning trivia for you, the guy who created spinning, who owns the word spin, is a guy named Johnny G. And Johnny G is a South African guy who came up with the idea, like I did, in his garage, and basically created a spin bike, and then took it to my partner, Star Trek, and they're the biggest manufacturer of spin bikes in the world. So they make Schwinn, and they make Star Trek spinning bikes. So I looked around, and they have education with it. So if you're become a spin instructor, they're the guys you go through. So, and they own the name Spinning. So we did the same thing with Boxmasters. So people in America go online now, they Google, they see this dude Fazio, and he teaches them how to and then they send a video in and we mark it and send it back. So I thought, spinning is legs of mum, and boxing is upper body. And I was in Los Angeles, and if you Google SoulCycle is the spinning class in America. Like, there's about 13 of them in New York, there's about 4 or 5 in LA, and they're awesome, right? So I used to sit outside the gym and watch this stuff, and I thought, what's so good about this, John? What is it? And what it is, it's an event, like they've got these, groovy people there, and it's really cool. They've got this, their signature smell is like citrus, and it's great music, and it's an event. SoulCycle, it's a cycle class, and it's the biggest thing in America. And I thought to myself, you know what? And they call it a hog because they've got straps hanging off the roof, and you can do like little 1 pound weights and that. But I'm not about to don the lycra and do it. But I could see how it worked. So what I thought was, if I amalgamated boxing and spinning, that'd be awesome, right? So that's what I thought. So I thought about the concept. So when I was in America, I set it up at the Star Trek factories. We've got 5 spin bikes, 5 boxing machines, and I got all the master trainers from Star Trek, and we did a class, and they were all shattered after it, and it worked. So what I thought was, okay, so how am I going to go about this? Now, remember, I've got this friend, and he's a lawyer, and I go for dinner with him, haven't seen him for ages, and he's doing some legals for me with regard to the product. We're sitting at dinner, and I remembered he bought a building in Queen Street, an old building in Queen Street. And we're sitting at dinner, we got chatting, and he goes, my mate says to me, you still got that building? He goes, that'd make an awesome boxing gym. He looks at me and goes, I want you to go with me. the deal. And he said, I'll tell you what, he goes, I franchised Domino's Pizza. He's the lawyer that did it, right? He said, to me, your idea's got franchise written all over it. He said, what about we do a deal? I'll do you a good deal on the building, and you do me a good deal on the business. So we basically joined forces. So I've now bought half the premises in Queen Street with this guy, and we're teaming up. We're going to open the world's first box and bike studio. So 32 spin bikes, 32 boxing machines, big sound, and half-hour workouts. So you go in there with a partner, they punch for a minute and a half, you ride a spin bike, and we change over. So we have spin instructors, boxing instructors. It's a beautiful old warehouse, and we can basically cater for 60 people. No membership. I'm not promoting the gym, guys, but I'm just saying that's how it works. So that's the concept, right? But this is the concept I've come up with next, and that's what I'm going to try and do. So I suppose, box and bikes well underway. I've got the boxing machines coming in from China. I took delivery of the spin bikes the other day to the council. We got a 44-foot container dropped in the middle of Northbridge at 5:30 a.m. It was quick to get the machines up. Take it away, mate. But anyway, the bikes have arrived. So we're still setting up. That won't happen till January, but construction is underway, and so we're setting up the world's first boxing bike. At street level, when you walk in, we're going to recreate a 1920s boxing gym. It's not going to get used. We've got an old bar out of an old pub, and it's really going to be point of sale. You can have a coffee, post-workout period. It's all vintage. It's like I got these 150-pound old Everlast rustic bags from New York. You can't buy them in Australia. So everything's like walking into an all like lacquered old red brick walls and all that, the old gold frames and that. So that, and then in the basement will be like a gym. But just stopping the clock for a minute. Do you remember I mentioned Queen Street when I was a little kid? And it was weird because I'll give my age up here. 30-something years later, I end up in a building next door to where I went with my dad when I was a little kid. So it's just amazing how, I don't know if you call it the secret or whatever, but sometimes when you really believe something and you sink it somewhere in your heart, it'll happen, and I always wanted to make a film as a kid, and opportunities will come knocking, and I'll tell you what, you've got to really evaluate the situation and think, mate, this might be my chance to do it, and you only ever lose when you give up, and the amount of shit that life throws at you with all your other problems going on. But if you surround yourself with good people and people that are smarter than you, like I'm smart in certain things, and I'm not that good at other things, but I'm streetwise enough to surround myself with some really smart people. And if you don't know something, I've had guys try to cheat me in the business, so I just play the game. I go, oh yeah, no, put it on paper, and I'll just give it to the best lawyer in Perth, and we'll work it out. So you're going to have people around you that knock you. Get away from negative people. That was one of the biggest things I've learned. Get all the negativity out of your life, and if you believe in a project, run it by smart people by all means. I ask, like if I've got an idea, I will run it by. People think I'm that. I'll run it by 20, 30 people because everyone has a different opinion, and you'll eventually get the right answer. So basically, the film was something I wanted to do as a kid, and I did it. The boxing machine was something that I believed I could pull off, and getting a multinational on board wasn't easy, but the product was good, and now I've done it. And this box and bike thing's the next thing we're going to do. So, and I ended up, I'll retire an old man. Hopefully I'll live that long. In Queen Street training kids like my dad, but that's what I wanted to do. So I might write another film too. We'll see how we go. You better come and see it first 3 weeks. Okay, sorry.
What do you think is the best advice anybody has ever given?
It's a really good question. about it are you really, you know? Because if you're passionate about it and you believe in it. And that was probably, you know, for me, I thought about it and I didn't realise how passionate I was about it. Like, you know, I would drive my friends mad. You know, I would like to hear that. You know, people think this guy's lost his mind, but I would not give up. And I really, and not because, you know, like I never covet my ideas. You know, a lot of my friends, you know, and good friends, you know, a couple of me say, why do you tell everyone what you're doing? Why do you? And I suppose that was my way of convincing myself that I could pull it off, but also what comes with that, on the other side of that, is you put a lot of added pressure on yourself as well. But, you know, I think, you know, if you're passionate about something and you believe in it, I mean, you just, and equally, a guy from the mining industry, a mate of mine, said to me, you know, you only, because I said to him, he's always doing these mining projects, and he's reasonably successful, and I said, mate, you know, the stock market shits itself, and this happens, and that happens, and people pull up. And he said to me, he said, because I see him every day with someone else trying to put deals together, and he said to me, you only sort of lose when you decide, when you get up in the morning and say, you know what, it's over, it's over. But, you know, I could have said it was over 20 times with that film. That was probably, you know, The Boxing Machine was a walk in the park. And it was hard. But compared to the film, my God, you know, like, you know, even acting, you know, because, like, you know, you're being judged, you know, like, I had to sort of pull it off, you know, so just believe in yourself, man. You know? And ask questions. Asking questions that, you know, I mean, I ask any project I have, I run it by people, I ask them, you know, I think it's very important. Don't be shy.
Right, have you got any, do you have any financial skills? Or would you say you had any financial skills? Obviously, you put together a business, and business is
Yeah.
do you actually have any financial skills?
Sort of piggy bank when I was young. No, financial skills. With regard to like
I mean, obviously you employ accountants.
yes.
I mean, do you read balance sheets? Do you?
Oh no.
So how do you know that you're doing well apart from?
Okay. Look, I have a, you know, I'm not a complete dope, right? I have a basic, you know, I was, you know, I could do English at school like that. Maths, I was sort of reasonably good. I don't, you know, the basic mathematics that you learn when you're a kid, you know, and how to save your money and like I'm pretty savvy and stuff like that. And I've had, so, you know, I know not to live beyond your means, you know, and stuff like that. Over the years, you know, like through the boxing, I've met, you know, I've trained people from politicians to guys up this end of the scale. So you meet a very big cross section of people and stuff. So over the years, I've done certain things, you know. So, but no, I don't read balance sheets. And to be honest with you, I don't really even intend on trying. I'm lazy. I am a bit lazy, and I'm a bit frightened of it in a way. But I've got enough good people around me that, you know, my job is to just sort of like go like a bull at a gate. I'm not stupid with my money. I'm not, you know, I don't drive around a flash car and, you know, wear the big gold chains, and I don't sort of like, you know, do that. So, but I'm careful what I do, and I get a lot of advice, you know. And I've got, you know, sorry, one thing I must say: find a mentor. Find a mentor in the area that you want to be. In the area you want to be in, but also, like I've got, and I can't speak highly enough about this guy, Dennis McInerney. He's a very well-known Ford guy, and he's been great. He's won a philanthropy award. He's been incredible guy to people from all walks of lives, and he's been my friend now for about 14, 15 years, and he's been incredible for me. Because every idea, and my dad was that idea I was to see him where any idea I've ever come up with, my dad's not me. Because I didn't go on and become a world champion. I was an Australian champion, I was a Golden Gloves champion, I was a state champion, and that wasn't good enough. You know? So every idea I've ever had, I mean that film, people go, oh, is he that hard? That film, my dad was 20 times harder than that film. But that's just the way he is. But so I've had mentors that are very, instead of, you know, I run an idea by them, instead of if I I'm not knocking my dad, he's my best mate, but I laugh at him now. I'm going right for a dickhead, Bob. But, yeah, I think getting a mentor is really, really important and asking questions, you know.
When was the moment for you where it all changed, where you realised that it wasn't necessarily about playing at these ideas, but really getting at them and making them happen? Was there a particular moment where you decided that those you should absolutely go for it?
Good question. Yeah, I was 28 years old. I'd been out at a nightclub doing all those stupid things that we do, right? And I'll never forget, I walked past, what's the average age here? Average. Yeah. I walked past my reflection in the glass and I looked shocked. And I just thought, what a goose. And that for me was like, I just thought to myself, I was 28. I actually thought I was 18. I mean, as you go through life, like you go through stages. Like when you hit 20, for me, when I hit 25, I realised I was a man, in a sense, because like I would respect guys that were older than me. But when I got to 25, I was like, why do I respect him? Well, he's a goose, you know, or whatever. So there was moments in my life. But when I got to 28, I just sort of like was out. I had a few years of going out being an idiot and to myself more than anything. And I just thought, you know what, I don't want to be 60 years old walking through the streets of Perth and some young guys going, oh, that's that bloke Fazio. He used to be a good fighter when he was young. Look at him now, he's washed up. That was never going to happen. But, you know what I mean, there's certain things that in your life, and that to me, I never forget, it was a turning point. I went, you know, this has got knobs on it. I was hanging out with some guys that were idiots. And I just said to my best friend, who's been my best friend since we were 8, I said to him, mate, I said, pack your bags, let's go to America, let's get out of here. I went to America, and I've got to say this, when I was 18 working on the doors, I went to a seminar, and it was like one of these seminars that the Entertainment Enterprise put on. And I didn't listen to it. At the end of it, this guy said, and you guys probably haven't listened to me, you'll probably listen to this, so if you're going to listen to it, this guy said there in the seminar. He says, if you remember one thing, he said, remember this. He said, go to America, it'll change your life. And it changed my life. And that was at 18. So at 28, when I had that point where I was just going to get out of this, within 3 or 4 weeks, I went to America and it changed my life. It changed everything. Got me away, and it just, one thing led to another, and now I go back and forth, you know. And both my businesses have, the film happened here in Australia, but it triggered there. Yeah.
What are your major life experiences in your boxing career? Obviously, the fight under the box master and ringing. Which do you find you most rewarding?
Probably the boxing show. Only because the film, you know, it's funny, because people say to me, like, okay, so I wrote a film, I acted in it. People say, what, you know, every time I meet people, I go, why aren't you acting? You know, I saw you do running, but why aren't you doing something else? When are you going to write on the film? I had a really bad taste in my mouth after that film, because I spent so many years on it, and the people that I was tied up with, the producers, and you know what I mean? So that for me, I know what it could have been, and I've still got the original scripts, and they were, you know, I've had so many people say, even Harvey goes, mate, that's the script there. So they watered things down. So to me, it wasn't I don't have good memories of making the film. It was a hard slog, and then, but you know, I'm very happy it got done. You know, I look at the film and I go, God, what's that scene doing there? Could have been this and that. So the answer is the boxing machine, because I see people just get blown away at the trade shows. They like look at it and they go, wow, you know. And the boxing machine, you know, I don't have anyone telling me, I know what I'm doing. You know? So like I go to the trade shows and you know, we've had them all, the military in the US, we've had the universities come through, we've had the Russians, you know, I go to FIBO in Germany and you have all the different, so to me that's rewarding. Yeah. And it's a product that I'm passionate about and I understand it, you know, so.
Have you ever thought about going to uni, like later on, or maybe now?
I'm here, what are you talking about? You know you have an entrance exam, don't you? Don't you have a basic entrance exam to get into uni? Isn't there a, like, it doesn't matter what course you do, don't you have to do some sort of basic exam? Okay, my best mate is like Joe Pesci, Little Terry, right? He's that guy I keep talking about. He had this girlfriend. That was in uni, and this was about 13 years ago. And she was in uni, and like, I remember him, and he was a little bit better than me at school, right? And he goes to me, "Oh, going to uni." What? You? And he goes, "Yeah, no, I'm just going. No, I wouldn't mind doing it. I wouldn't mind having a crack at it." I'm thinking, is he off his head? Was he going to uni, right? So anyway, he went to do. I think they do like a basic exam, they give you a dummy run. They do like a dummy run, like not the actual entrance. Is there like a pre-entrance exam or something? Anyway, mate, he failed miserably. He goes, "Mate, I couldn't get through the door." So you know, side joke, mate. But I mean, I don't know. What could I mean?
Oh, you really like business, maybe? Market design?
Yeah, nah. You know, mate, I'm 46 this year, so the clock's ticking up. I mean, in my heart, what I want to do, I want to get this gym up and running, and I want to try and get franchises out around the world because I think we can do it. And then I want to sit down and write another film. And because the good thing is now, over the years, I've met a lot of people in America and stuff that are like the real deal, and I would like to write something, either a TV series or, and it's that's probably what I'll do. Yeah. Sorry, something else.
How important is networking in both the film and business industry? Like, how would you, like, yeah, like how important is knowing people in the industry to like help advance you?
Very.
Very.
Yeah, very.
So never like undercut people.
Sorry, no?
So never like judge people and think they don't know anything.
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean that's something you'll learn in your life too. You know, like the amount of times you go through life where you feel like telling someone what you think about them, right? And yeah, bite your lip. Because I tell you what, I'm not going to mention any names, but one of the biggest business deals I've ever done, I nearly told this guy what I thought of him because at one particular time, this guy was really giving me the shits and he was being very difficult, and I was like a hair away from telling him what I thought of him, and I didn't, and I just went, just took a deep breath, and 48 hours later, temperature goes down. 3-4 years later, I got off one of the best deals of my life. So, but it is important. It's important, but never. You know what you got to understand too is like people are people, and when you're younger, I mean even now I get nervous, right? But like when you're younger, you think, oh shit, it might be someone who's high up in a company or someone you want to meet or something, and you only get so many opportunities. And at the end of the day, man, they wake up in the morning, they do all the things you do. So I just think, if you're honest and don't bullshit, people can see straight through bullshit, you know what I mean? So if you're passionate about it, you believe in it, and you're honest, just be straight up. You have to do it. You've got to pick up the phone. You've got to accidentally on purpose run into people. I don't know what it is you're trying to achieve, but you know what I mean. You've got to get street smart at certain things, and you've got to do what you've got to do. But it's important to make those contacts and just be honest. People don't know what you're going to say. Big deal.
One last question.
Yeah, you're a confident person, you speak well in public. Did this come to you naturally, or did you have to work on it?
Every report card I've ever had from school, Raymond talks too much, Raymond disrupts the class, Raymond is always telling stories. My older brother, this is weird actually, because my older brother Johnny, he's very quiet for the best brother you could ever ask for. And as a kid, I'd like look and I'd go, imagine if this, or imagine if that, and he'd just go, oh, shut up, imagine if this, imagine if that. And that was just the way I was, you know what I mean? So I probably talk too much. So no, I didn't go to any formal, again, no formal things.
No, you're very good with people, and it takes a business to, I think if you combine both,
Yeah.
you can really Okay, I think we had a fair share for this afternoon. I don't think we're going to do much more, so I'll let you go a bit earlier then, okay? Any questions? Sorry, before I sort of finish off. I had a couple of students that still email me that they want the slides, the lecture slides up before the lectures. So can I ask you, show hands, for which people is it really important to have slides up? Alright, so what I will do is I'll have a version of the slides up before the lecture with some of the slides missing. The ones that you bring any comments